that's a high total, but they've been taken before. I think that was it the Rams Saints game? It was like a 59, and it went way over. Wasn't it that one? Yeah,
it was like it ended up like 70 or something like that.
Yeah,
80.
People jumping all over that. So what's funny about this game? I was looking at the Eagles. I'm like, okay, they're the Super Bowl champs. They're pissed off after this week. This is probably a good get up spot for them. And then I look at Philadelphia's injury report, and their defense is in shambles, man. I mean, cornerback Ronald Darby out for the season.
Yep.
Jalen Mills, highly questionable for this game. Sidney Jones, hammy, highly questionable for this game.
Yep.
They lost Derek Barnett, a defensive end, recently. They lost Rodney McLeod earlier in September. Yeah, dude, this defense is banged up, man. So that just kind of goes more towards your point. But I was actually thinking about taking their side. But after looking at this injury report, man, I almost lean the Saints on this one. They're going to win like 55-40 or something.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's probably going to be a no play for me on the side. But unless I decide to go with the obviously the Saints, but that over is probably still a little low, and get it now because we know the public will be betting it up, my man. I like the play, Danny. I like the fact he had the balls to do this, to do that. That's what the NFL is absolutely trending.
Right.
Houston versus Washington. Washington's getting 3 points at home. This is kind of like a story of two teams here, One's trending up, one's trending down. Both of these coaches suck. I mean, when Houston played Dallas, you thought that was the worst battle of the two worst coaches. But now that Hugh Jackson's fired, Jay Gruden might be the guy that's next. I'm not sure, but either way, Washington, they had a great start this season, right? And they surprisingly beat a few big teams like the Panthers, the Packers. But what we forget, that when they played the Panthers and the Packers, they're banged up. They're really beat up. The Packers were missing a bunch of receivers, some defense, and the Panthers were missing Greg Olsen and a couple other guys. And so the Redskins skate by that. They've been running the football very well until that Falcons game, where they lost both their starting guards and their big smash run blockers, right? Now, last week, they somehow got to injure 3 offensive tackles. Their great rookie, Jaron Christian, tore his MCL. Their star tackle, Trent Williams, may miss another game with a thumb injury. The Redskins may not have a starter on the offensive line this game. It's maybe their center. I thought I have to look at that one, but the Redskins are coming off a misleading score here against the Bucs. They won 16-3, but they're outgained by over 200 yards. Freaking Fritz Magic, he threw for 500 yards himself, right? And so this was a complete misleading score and just terrible efficiency by the Bucs. But one thing I do, I didn't like that Houston lost, their wide receiver this year. But I do like Kiki Kuti, and he's going to be back in the slot. And they obviously got that big guy from Denver to fill in at receiver. And I think Josh Norman is going to be over DeAndre Hopkins, but Kuti and a couple other those guys are going to get wide open here. So I'm taking Houston -3 here. That line's telling me a lot. And I'm probably going to take a prop bet on the total sacks for this game. Demaryius Thomas, that's what I was trying to say. He's going to get a lot of targets this game. I'm liking Houston -3.
All right, good. I like the pick, right? And that kind of leads me into what I'm going to talk about here, the Houston-Washington game. Washington, I know everything you said there is correct, but they're still 6-3, right? They're quietly having a good year. And they're doing it by playing defense, all right? They allowed over 20 points 3 times this year. Once 21 against the Colts, 43 against the Saints, and Saints score against everybody, 38 against Atlanta. So that's the real stinker game defensively. Even with those two really stinkers with Atlanta and the Saints, they're still averaging 19.4 points per game defensively, right? Which is fifth in the NFL. It's really good. They're still playing against NFL teams, so it's good, right? The defense is going to give up yards. You're right. They did last week at half against Tampa Bay, but they bend, but they don't break, okay? The offense isn't great either. At this point in his career, Alex Smith, he's just an above-average quarterback in right now, right? He's not going to
barely.
Yeah. I mean, look, he's not going to turn the ball over, right? He's only got 10 touchdowns this year, but I think he's got 3 interceptions. He's not going to turn it over, right? So he's not going to make mistakes, and he isn't going to Drew Brees you, all right? So on the flip side, like Washington, Houston has a very good bounce back season as well, right? So Watson went down last year. It absolutely killed him. He's come back. He's put a very good year put together. After throwing 7 picks in the first 6 games, he hasn't thrown one since, so he's been pretty good, right? And defensively, they're also playing very well. So the last 5 weeks, they're only giving up 15.2 points per game, right? So here we got 2 teams that are playing some great defense, right, and running the ball to control the clock. This, to me, bodes well for a low-scoring game. The over-under for here is 42.5, and it's a really scary low number, but the way these two teams are playing defensively and how they're running the ball and their offense isn't putting numbers through the roof, this is going to be more of a bend and not break type game. So I'm going to take the under here at 42.5.
No, I definitely like it. That makes a lot of sense. The only thing you would have to worry about is if a fumble and from their offensive line being so bad, or a pick six, right? Alex Smith doesn't really throw pick sixes. He was one of the most efficient quarterbacks last year, so you have that on your side. Washington does have a low opponent score, but they rank 22 in opponent yards per play, so not great. But Houston ranks 4th in opponent yards per play at 5.2. So that's a really great angle. I mean, J.J. Watt's been playing awesome, right? Davion Clowney's been playing great. This defense for Houston's been really stepping it up. So yep. I could definitely see the under there, or even use it in one of your teasers if you thinking about something. You need to try to put it against one of your other sides. It's always good to do a low total because there's less variance in the game. So tease that sucker right up to 48.5, and you'll be feeling good right there.
Yeah, look at Washington's last few games here: 16 points, 14 points, 20 points, 20 points, 23, 19. Right, their highest scoring game of the year was 31 against Green Bay. Mm-hmm. Right, so they don't put up a lot of points. And Houston's no juggernaut either. So let's not think that they're dropping 30 on everybody as well. They're good offense, right? They're averaging 24 points a game. It's nothing, it's 16th in the league. It's the average, right? So, I defensively, I know we had a bad look with them Atlanta a couple weeks ago, but still, they're still shutting some teams down. So, I think it's a great play for myself.
They average with Will Fuller out, they average a lot less per game, and he's their big guy. He's that deep guy, so you don't have to necessarily worry about that big, huge, pass play. That you might be able to handicap that out of the game. And the Redskins, after giving up all those points to Atlanta and those yards to Tampa, it's kind of a get up spot for their defense. So I like where you're going with that one, man. Let's move on to Oakland versus Arizona. Arizona laying 4 points. What a terrible game, Danny.
Just because you're touching this game, I'm giving you props. So.
well, I love touching these games because they're highly ignored, and I think if you hunt, you can definitely find some value in some reasoning here. So, I took Arizona after they fired their offensive coordinator, and they ended up covering against the Niners. Went against a lot of players on that one, so I'm going back to the well. There's 2 personalities to this Raiders team, right? The one who wants to play well at home for the Oakland fans, right? The Oakland fans are diehard for them. They're going to lose their team, and they're going to Vegas. and so the team kind of wants to play good at home, and now it doesn't always work, right? But when they travel, that's when the fact that they completely gave up on their season shows up. The Raiders are 1-3 against the spread on the road. Arizona is 3-2 against the spread at home. Kind of doing a little bit better. You saw they covered against Kansas City last week. Josh Rosen's starting to figure out a little bit. Their offensive line is slightly improved. They're still bad, but they slightly improved. There's still talent on this team as a whole. You still got your leaders, Larry Fitzgerald, right? You got Patrick Pearson. Now, I know Brian Leftwich as their offensive coordinator. They were able to put a few things together against the Chiefs. They came back against the 49ers a few weeks back. The simple handicap here is that what I think is going to happen is going to be a running ground and pound game. Oakland is the third worst team against the run, and that's only by 1 point or 1 yard. They're almost dead last against the run, and they're the 12th worst team against the pass. The Cardinals, they're actually fourth best against the pass due to guys like Patrick Pearson and Antoine Bethia, And lastly, Oakland, they rank dead last in sacks per game, 0.9. Arizona ranks fifth in sacks per game at 3.2. So that's going to be a huge part to this handicap. I expect Arizona to kind of get things done at home. They need a feel-good game here. This is where we're going to get it. They're playing a team that quit on their coach. This 4 points is telling me the whole story here. I'm taking Arizona, laying the 4.
Yeah, I looked at that, and I thought the under on this game, right? Neither one of these guys can score points. And the way that both of them are going to run the ball, the over-under right now is at 41, and I even considered talking about that for this game. So I even like this game with the under more than being confident that the Cardinals are going to score.
Well, I tried that already, and Josh Rosen threw 2 pick sixes, and so that didn't work out. Didn't work out too well for me against Denver, literally. And but yeah, so you got to understand when teams suck this bad, they turn the ball over, and that could destroy a good under. So I sure as hell ain't betting the over, though. I'll tell you that, man.
No.
And I just think that the Cardinals win 24-10. I think it's going to be that type of game. They're going to, David Johnson's finally going to get a couple touchdowns for his fantasy guys that drafted him. He's going to have a great fantasy game here. And it's going to make them feel good. They're going to
even with the Cardinals only scoring more than 24 points once all year long, and that was against San Francisco.
It's worst. Raiders are the worst defense in the league. Yes, absolutely, and very confident about this one. So put some thought into it. What do you got next, bud?
All right, we got Minnesota at Chicago. Right, the NFL flexes this game to Sunday night. Right, I think you're a Bears fan. Right, I'm a Bears fan.
Come on.
So this is really fun and exciting. At the same time, I go, oh no, I don't want that game on prime time, right? But the Bears are actually getting some love from the NFL now, right? They're 6-3, top of the NFC North Division here, and look, they're playing really well, right? So this game is for first place. Whoever wins this game will be in first place, right? The Bears are number 5 in offense in points per game at 29.9. Their defense is also number 5 at 19.4 given up per game. So their balance is really there. You typically don't see this, right? They're top 4 in defense, the Bears are, right? Giving up yards per game. And 2 of those were without Khalil Mack. Now that Mack's back at 100%, Allen Robinson's at 100% at wide receiver. Mitch is coming off an offensive player of the week, right? This bodes well for the uptick Chicago, especially since they're all healthy right now. Now, the Vikings have had a weird year, right? I mean, they're 5-4-1. They could certainly, be better, right? And they could certainly look at them and say, my gosh, what the heck are these guys doing, right? It's not the same dominating team as last year. Something's a little bit missing and off. And I don't know if it's the Kirk Cousins thing, but, they're coming off a bye week, and they're expecting to have a lot of good players back, like Anthony Barr.